I know what I'm doing tonight at 6 o'clock. I will be at Dow Furnishings on Manchester Road at 6 p.m. because they are having a... Sarah, what are they having tonight at 6 o'clock at Dow Furnishings?
Well, we're doing all sorts of things. I'm Sarah Lanigan. I'm the curator and director of the Stickley Museum up in upstate New York.
Right.
And we are having a special event at Dow Home Furnishings tonight. And I'm going to be giving a presentation, and it's going to be great. It's kind of taking you through the museum that I curate and take care of. So it's a little bit woodworking, it's a little bit history, it's a little bit what we do in the factory today.
And so that's all tonight at 6 o'clock at Dow Furnishings.
Exactly. It starts at 6, and I'll be speaking right at 7.
Now, if there's some dorky guy who looks like me in the front row asking a whole bunch of questions, don't be afraid.
Okay, I'll try not to be.
So we knew you were coming to town, and we said we had to get you here in studio because we here at the Big 550 KTRS are such big woodworking fans.
Awesome.
And we also understand, some people were making fun of me, this is an American art form, is it not, Stickley furniture?
Absolutely. Stickley is a long-standing American tradition. The company started in 1900, and we're still going strong. We're still in upstate New York with our flagship factory. It's a long-standing history with the Stickley brothers, who really were looking at furniture that was being made at the time. They were reacting to this Victorian look of quickly produced, not well-produced pieces where the workers were being abused, the machines were being abused, there was no respect for the beauty of the grain of the wood. And they really turned that all around, and that's where we see this style of furniture that Stickley is so well known for, its mission furniture.
Yeah, so explain to people, and if you're watching on KTRS TV, you brought a couple of pictures to explain it. But for those, explain what a Stickley furniture is. What type of genre is that?
Most people think of Stickley and they think of mission, and that's correct. And that's something that we did for about 20 years, from 1900, 1915, 1920. We also do a whole variety of styles now. So we have things that are modern, very traditional, but mission furniture is this classic, clean lines, simple, honest construction. You're supposed to be able to look at a piece of furniture and say, I can tell exactly how that goes together.
Right. It's simplistic, and yet it takes a whole lot of skill to build.
Absolutely, because it's so simplistic, there's nowhere to hide your mistakes, your woodworking mistakes. It's all out there in the open. So it's definitely a skill that our craftspeople up in Manlius take great pride in.
He made famous the Morris chair, correct?
Correct. The Morris chair actually was based on one by William Morris. It's something that's had several different versions throughout the years, but the reclining bow arm Morris chair is an iconic mission arts and crafts style piece.
I made that, you know.
Oh, really? Nice.
I steam bended the wood.
Yes.
And then very similar to Mr. Gustav Stickley. It is one of the most comfortable chairs you will ever sit in.
Absolutely. Those chairs are beautiful, simple, and very comfortable.
Yeah. I also made the Eastwood chair.
Okay, nice.
Now, here's what I did. I sent away for Gustav Stickley's original designs on the internet. They sent them to me, and it wasn't as simple as, baking a cake, 2 tablespoons of salt and 3 cups of water. You had to sort of hunt and peck, and part of the beautiful nature of it, or the thing that was really exciting for me, was I was able to sort of figure it out, and I made it. It's not great. It's certainly not perfect, and it's not sellable. But to me, it's worth $1 million.
And that was actually one of Gustav Stickley's favorite chairs. He had one in his home in Syracuse, one in his home at Craftsman Farms in New Jersey. And actually, recently, Stickley just made a chair like that for the Dalai Lama. He came and spoke at Syracuse University, and we have it in the museum. So if you're ever up in upstate New York, you can sit where the Dalai Lama sat.
Talk about this museum for a moment. What is in this museum?
This museum is very unique and special. First of all, it's because we're located in the original factory. So 100 years ago, right where we were sitting, there were machines humming, people crafting furniture, hand sanding things. And we actually used that building from 1900 to 1985. So that was quite a long time we were there. And now the exhibit area is about 8,000 square feet in the original finishing room where the finishes were applied on the furniture.
Stickley almost went out of business in the 80s, did it not?
Actually, Stickley went through some hard times before that in the 1970s. Louise Stickley, the widow of Leopold Stickley, had been running the company for a while, and over the years, it had dwindled down to about 22 employees. And the Audi family, they had a long-standing relationship with the Stickleys going back to the 1920s. E.J. Audi was the top Stickley dealer in New York City, and his son Alfred absolutely loved it. He grew up sleeping in a Stickley bed, and him and his wife Amini purchased the company. And they really revived it and put so much work and passion into creating this. And now we went from 22 employees to about 1,400 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, but it also goes with the trend. The 70s, the 80s, the good, hearty American furniture sort of went by the wayside, and then you had like plastic chairs like a hand people were sitting in.
Right, so which makes me cringe a little.
Right. It makes us all cringe. I mean, that style sort of fell out of favor for a while.
Right, and actually the Mission style, we had stopped making that in the 1920s, like I said before. So locally, a lot of people knew us for more traditional stuff made out of cherry. And so we started creating that again in 1989, and that's been very popular.
Sarah Lanigan is with us. She is the director of the Stickley Museum in Fayetteville?
Absolutely, yep.
Fayetteville, New York, which is where?
It's a little bit east of Syracuse in upstate New York.
How far is it from Cooperstown?
I would say probably about 2 hours.
So you could go on a trip to Cooperstown and then go see the Stickley Furniture Museum.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to give anyone a tour.
Okay. So and tonight at 6 p.m. at Dow Home Furnishings on Manchester.
That's it.
You're going to give a presentation.
Yep, and we just ask that if you'd like to come, just give Kara a call at 636-394-3005 just to reserve a seat. But it'll be a really great presentation, take you through a lot of the history.
You're also giving away something tonight?
We're giving away something really cool. I actually happen to own one of these pieces. It's the collector's piece from last year. It's 2012 beautiful arts and crafts, English arts and crafts style cabinet with beautiful Harvey Ellis inlay in it. So definitely something you would want to get.
Each year, Stickley makes a once-a-year collector's item.
Yes.
Explain that for a second.
We do. It's a great way to kind of introduce yourself to the Stickley brand without having to, buy a whole bedroom set.
Right.
It's a great way to get a taste of that. And so in previous years, we've done things like a drink stand, the cabinet from last year, a beautiful wedding mirror. And most recently, this year, we have a gorgeous wine rack. And we do them in oak and cherry versions, depending on your preference.
Explain the Harry Ellis inlay.
Harvey Ellis was an architect, and he worked with Gustav for a very short amount of time, but he was the one who really infused a lighter look to Mission. So whereas you see the earlier pieces being a lot heavier, Harvey Ellis added a lightness to them and these beautiful inlays, and we still do them today in that same Japanese influence that he did then.
You mentioned earlier the grain of the wood.
Mm-hmm.
Talk for a moment, because there are great stories about in today's world where you get every ounce of you hand pick the wood to go with the piece that you're making. Talk about that.
We have a state-of-the-art facility. It's 400,000 square feet right still in upstate New York. And we have amazing different machines that are able to help us sort out and pick and find the best quality pieces of wood very quickly to use these for the furniture. Because when you're buying Stickley, you're buying something that is completely solid. It's not things that are built up to look like it's a solid piece of wood. Everywhere you look, that's one solid piece on a leg, that's one solid piece on a back slat.
Yeah, there is no veneer, there is no particle board, there is no...
Not for this Stickley Mission. A veneer work would be inlays and stuff like that where you would need to do it that way.
Right.
But yeah, it's going to be solid crafted wood.
Talk about a quarter-sawn white oak piece of wood.
Quarter-sawn oak is a special way of cutting wood, and what you do is you pretty much take your log, and instead of flat sawing it where you just try to get as much as you can out of the log, you're cutting it kind of like you were cutting a pie, and then you cut along the inside rays. And what that does is it shows off these beautiful stripes that are kind of denser parts of the wood, and we call that ray flake or tiger stripe. And it's something that they did back then and we do now. It's a really beautiful way of cutting the wood. Did
Gustav invent that, or where did this quarter-sawn oak come from?
That was something people had been doing for a while. Gustav really was innovative because he pulled from a whole bunch of different ideas and brought together something new.
Yeah. How did the downturn affect Stickley? You guys are still going strong?
We're still going very strong. Yeah, we have a very strong contract business. So there's Stickley in places you wouldn't expect, like embassies, consulates, Walt Disney World, all sorts of different places. So we don't just do things for the home, we do them for other places as well.
Right, yeah. How did you get involved in all this?
I actually interned at the Stickley Museum when I was working at Syracuse University. I was studying, getting my master's degrees, and a job opened up, and I was able to.
Were you a woodworker beforehand?
No, I actually had no woodworking experience before, and now I know quite a bit about hand sanding and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Dovetails.
The talk about the finishing for a while, because the as great as the woodworker is, it's nothing unless it's finished correctly.
That's absolutely true. You definitely want to be able to see the grain of the wood. And that's something we've really perfected with our finishes because we use these aniline dyes, and it goes through a series of being built up. Kind of if you were an oil painter and you want to have a depth to the color of a part of a painting. It's the exact same idea. And that's a very time-intensive process and something that I'll show you in more detail in my talk tonight.
When people are exposed to Stickley furniture for the first time, do they get it? Does it take them a while to understand it? Do they never get it?
I think people get it. I see so many people come through the museum, and even local people, they'll say, I didn't realize how important and how special this is and how much work goes into building these pieces of furniture. I think they get very excited.
Mission, arts and crafts. There's also in St. Louis and in the Midwest a whole lot of bungalows, the arts and crafts bungalows, and also Frank Lloyd Wright. Where does all of that fit? Does it fit in together? Did it all happen by accident?
It all kind of grows out of each other. Gustav Stickley was the one who starts this craftsman term, and he had a magazine called The Craftsman where he designed these homes. And so a true craftsman home is going to be one of these 200-something designs that were published by Gustav Stickley in his magazine. Later on, places like Sears and Roebuck, they ended up creating their own kits and call it bungalow style or craftsman style. So we really see them all kind of growing out from that movement of arts and crafts.
And where does Frank Lloyd Wright fit into all this?
He was actually working nearby in Buffalo about the same time, about 1903, and they were very influenced. They had to have had some sort of influence. I'm not sure if they had, face-to-face contact, but we see a prairie style, very reminiscent of Frank Lloyd Wright and some of the Ellen J.G. and Gustav designs.
Yeah, and so even though they're not exactly connected, there are too many similarities, right?
I think so at that point. I think the major difference would be that Gustav and Leopold and all the Stickley brothers were concerned that you'd be comfortable when you sat in the chair. Frank Lloyd Wright, no disrespect to him, was more concerned that it looked nice than the comfort. So
fair enough. So we could be driving in a street in St. Louis, designed and pass a craftsman-style house that was designed by Gustav Stickley.
Absolutely. People built them all on their own. And actually, his designer, Harvey Ellis, lived here in St. Louis for a while. And this morning, I'm going to actually be going on a tour with John Gunther, who is a professor. He's an architect, and he specializes in Harvey Ellis buildings, and he has them all throughout the city. So I'll be able to see some of that today.
So you're gonna find out you're gonna like St. Ous quite a bit.
Oh, I already do.
Harvey Ellis lived in St. Louis. Was he born here, or he just spent time here?
He actually was born in Rochester, New York, and ended up moving out here for work.
Yeah, holy mackerel! I could spend all day talking about this. Sarah Lanigan is the director of the Stickley Museum. Tonight, you're going to be giving a presentation at Dow Furnishings, 6 p.m. tonight. Anyone who's interested in furniture, anyone who's interested in the history of America, right? I mean, this is the living and the dying and the breathing, where our last 100 years, where many people lived and died in houses and furniture just like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And when Grandma hands you a Stickley as a wedding present, you cherish it, do you not?
Definitely. I still have people come in the museum today who say they have their great-grandparents' wedding furniture that was made by Stickley. It just lasts. And now we have 100 years of hindsight where we've been able to make it even better than before. So it's just going to continue to be passed through the generations.
Yeah. When I buy, should I buy cherry or quarter-sawn white oak?
I think whichever you like best.
You know what I have my eye on is the rocking chair.
Yes. That's a beautiful piece. My parents own a couple of the rocking chairs.
Yeah, not
Very
the small one, the bigger one,
Yeah,
the little bigger one. Yeah,
mhm.
That is, holy mackerel, that is beautiful.
Very nice.
Sarah Lanigan, thank you very much for putting up with me.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Do people want to find out more about Stickley, is there a website people can find out more?
Yes, you can go to stickley.com. You can also, if you want to know more about the history, stickleymuseum.com. We have a blog there where I update regularly about different historical tidbits.
Fantastic. Sarah Lanigan, we'll see you tonight. Dow Furnishing, 6 p.m. for a presentation. Save a seat for me.
I absolutely will.
You got it. 9:25 here on the Big 550.